Audio, everyone. Welcome to another Raw Impressions and another time where Eli can't get his microphone where he likes it. So, anyways, welcome to a Raw Impressions. Okay, we're back from whatchamacallit. So today we are watching, or I'm watching, y'all will be with me, hopefully. And we have another banquet meal. And we are going to be watching, this time, No Apologetics. Well, wrong. We are watching an apologetic guy. But we are not watching apologetics, really. Trent released this video. So in the Catholic sphere, everyone's like, oh yeah, that guy. He released a video a day or so ago. Protestantism is winning and the lesson for Catholics. So we're going to watch, react, and I'm going to talk intermittent through it, I assume. I have no idea. Again, raw impressions. No idea what's in this. The one thing I will say before I continue, I have seen the Twitter. I'm about a day or so late, so I have seen some of the Twitter stuff. I have no, and by that I mean just the fact that his data is it's just data, and I guess the data is very sus. So yeah, excuse me. We're gonna go through that very quickly. So let me swap. It's only like a 20-minute video, so I hopefully think this should be done in 30. But it is very weird. I will say this title is very sus in the fact that there are Protestants who are writing basically the reverse of the Catholic and Protestant. So the fact that we have also our version, okay, one of us is lying, and I don't know who, but I sincerely doubt it's us. Because I think, what was it, the data was like, we're going to outpace the Anglicans in England at some point. And to be fair, there has been a lot of people joining the church. So I'm going to see what he's going to try to say. I think also for the guy that's the apologetics, to admit kind of defeat is kind of not the best light. I'll just say that. Because I can't think of it. I actually can't just think of anything else. But yeah, and I will say, hold on, before I do have a slight disclaimer. I don't agree with some of Trent's social or political takes. I thought one time he talked about like mutual submission. I don't exactly agree to, I think, the version of mutual submission. It's been a while, so don't give me flack for it if so. But definitely I'm a pro-patriarchy guy. Yeah. But anyways, we're going to lock and load.
How can I, a Catholic apologist, say that Protestantism is winning? Does that mean I'm a traitor? No. It means I'm not here to tell my largely Catholic audience what they want to hear. I'm here to tell them the truth, just like I tell a hard truth to any non-Catholic who watches my channel. Now, by winning, I don't mean Protestantism has attained the best worldview or that it expresses the fullness of the Christian faith. I mean that Protestantism is growing faster, or at least declining much slower, than Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. So it's absurd for Catholics or the Orthodox to crow about how Protestantism is dead, everybody's becoming Catholic, or the future is Orthodox. I agree that there has been a resurgence of interest online in the ancient traditions of.
Okay, I do want to point out there is a definition of Catholic, and it's practicing Catholic. So, Protestantism is very loose on what is considered a Protestant and what is a Christian, because it's like, well, believes the gospel. Well, what the hell does that mean? I was watching, I thought, a clip from what's the guy? The street pastor. I can't remember his name. Cliff something. I'm gonna script the name. He lost to like the Orthodox guy or the Eastern Orthodox guy a week or so ago. And he literally said a video, I guess, talking about it, and I intend to potentially do another Raw Impressions on that. I'm not so familiar with Orthodoxy, so um, it's not what I usually deal with, so I'm not going to really comment too much, but maybe we'll see. But what I thought was interesting is in his kind of rebuttal to like defend himself, Cliff basically said, he basically at one point said, oh gosh, what is it? I'm sorry. It was like a minute, but he basically said like, I don't care if you don't believe in the Eucharist, and I don't even like. In somewhat, he was like, it doesn't matter. You just need to know Jesus, and that is so vague that it can't even be like fought against because it's just, well, what the hell does that even mean? That ranges from like atheists know. Does that mean atheists know it because they're aware of Jesus? They think he's fake. Just like what does that mean, right? Yeah, that was at least my thought. So I will say though, if we're gonna talk about rates, obviously there are reverts. There are obvious in the Catholic faith. There are there's one other point, but then there's also this like with reverts and converts. But what I also think is a lot of Catholics are Catholic, but but they don't like they maybe show up to mass, but that's about it. Like they don't do anything else. It's just like they're there, you know? Um and that's why I say practicing Catholics are where we should be doing the numbering. Um but yeah, I will say confession lines tend to be short. Communion lines on the other hand, um just just apart. So yeah, but the other thing that I say is I'm finding this weird notion around some of the Twitter, somewhat apologetic guys. Um, it's interesting because like I do agree with the like when I converted, I do not think that I should have jumped into apologetics like the very first thing I did. Mainly because I do think it kind of like put a stopgap on me. But I'm finding that some people are saying that like you don't need to know like too much theology. Like obviously there's like you got to know enough theology, but like to give an example, I have a Theobro shirt precisely because a woman said something about like she wouldn't get with a Theobro, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Our kids are going to be checks notes educated on the faith." Yeah, yeah. Instead of my kids saying it's like, "Why do we go to mass?" You know, my kid's gonna say because it's what the Lord requires. In so many words, most kids are just saying, "Well, that's what I do normally." So, yeah, don't just anyways. So, I'm going to continue. 1 minute. I'm sorry. I'm a gabbier, which is actually lies. I usually am not. I talk to myself way more than I do anyone else. Yeah, my mom says it's my guardian angel. I just call myself mental. Different stories.
Of Catholic and Orthodox churches. And maybe you've personally heard of a lot of conversions out of Protestantism in your communities on the internet. I get people emailing me all the time thanking me for how this channel helped them choose to become Catholic. And if you'd like to help us keep doing that, then please hit the subscribe button and go over and support us at TrentHornPodcast.com.
Okay, hold on. Hold on, let me get this straight. The Protestants are winning. Or your claim is that Protestants are winning. Sorry. Just the logic is not. It is very much not logicking. So you claim that Protestantism is winning, and like it actually, you know, Catholicism is actually losing compared to Protestantism, but because of that, since I'm a Catholic apologist, I totally need your money so I can continue what I'm doing. Bro, if we're losing, do you really need the cash? I'm sorry, it's just like I mean it in all good fun to Trent, but like I'm just saying, you know, yeah, it's the logic.
And whenever I hear about this, I say, praise be to God. But the internet is not real life, or it's not representative of real life as a whole. And when we stay in an online bubble, we can get a distorted view of reality, like thinking that seeing many online stories about Protestant converts to Catholicism means that everybody's becoming Catholic. I'm also not the only Catholic who has noticed this bad news. Eric Sammons at Crisis Magazine wrote an excellent summary of the latest Pew Research Religious Landscape Report, and the findings are brutal for Catholics. Sammons writes the following: only 19% of Americans self-identify as Catholic, down from 24% in 2007. This is a 20% decrease. By comparison, Protestants decreased by 21%, while religious nuns increased by 81%, and Muslims increased by an astounding 200%, although they still make up a small percentage of the overall population, only 1.2%. Even though the Pew survey headline suggests that the decline in Christianity in this country may have leveled off, it's clear that overall direction is downward. Now let's go into the data a little bit deeper, because it...
Hold on. Back up. Wait, sorry, I'm half eating, half thinking. So the decline has leveled off. So it's done like a sign, right? It's kind of like do, but the overall trend is down. Okay, I'll have to continue, but like, are you saying? But it can't level. It can't level down and go. It can't go down and level off at the same time. Like it could level down, but going beat up with its leveling out. So, anyways,
clear that overall direction is downward. Now let's go into the data a little bit deeper, because at first this makes it sound like Protestantism is doing worse than Catholicism, but that's not the case. I'm going to pick a few specific religions and denominations covered in the report to show how Catholics especially have been losing ground in the past decade. So among the survey's 35,000 respondents, here were the results. 46% were raised Protestant.
Wait, hold on, back that up.
Among the survey's 35,000 respondents, here were the results.
People responded to the survey. That's the big issue right there. Like, people, it's like Yelp reviews. Like, the Yelp reviews, it's always like, 3 stars or whatever. Then you go and, like, everything's perfectly fine. But it's always these people, it's always the people that wrote horrible reviews. Anyone who had a good review doesn't write a review because they don't care enough to write a review. And I'm not saying that you have to. I'm just saying that that's kind of just how it is. Excuse me.
Results. 46% were raised Protestant, 30.2% were raised Catholic, 0.8% were raised Orthodox, 2.1% were raised LDS or Mormon, and 12.6% were raised without any religion. But of that same group today, only 40% identify as Protestant, 18.9% identify as Catholic, 0.7% identify as Orthodox, 1.5% identify as Mormon, and 29.4% identify as religiously unaffiliated. This means that the biggest gain of adherence were for those who have no religion at all. 20% of people in the sample went from being religious to having no religion. Of those who switched between religious groups, 7.6% became Protestant, 1.5% became Catholic, 0.3% against the people who, and 0.4% became Mormon. But we have to balance this against the people who left each of these groups as well. For example, 3.5% of people stopped being non-religious, but that's still a huge net gain for the non-religious. In my previous episode on the death of new atheism, I talked about how strident, militant forms of atheism are on the decline. But that doesn't preclude more generic worldviews, like the kind that believes in God but not organized religion, from increasing. When it comes to those who switched out of belief systems, 13.7% were Protestant, 12.8% were Catholic, 0.3% were Orthodox, and 1% were Mormon. To put it another way, the study says that for every 100 people who become Protestant...
Oh, sorry, let me move me for 1 sec. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, but again, it's the same. But again, Twitter has the hosts of the people who are like, I went to Catholic school, and that made me Catholic. Even though probably the rest. You probably were, Protestant, maybe. I don't know. Catholic, like I didn't go to Catholic school, obviously. Um, excuse me, but like just because you go to Catholic school doesn't necessarily dictate that you're going to be Catholic. So, and if it's also self-respondents, obviously there's going to be some people who are going to label themselves as something. Um, interesting though. But like a lot of people leave like, but if you just get into Christianity though, we're all losing together. So I don't know how that you could do because that's what 8, 7. No, that's definitely 8, 6. Where are they getting the 6 from? Okay. Anyways,
180 people leave Protestantism. However, for every 100 people who become Catholic, 840 people leave Catholicism. And for every 100 people who become religious, 590 people give up religion. The Eastern Orthodox are basically on par with Muslims, Buddhists, and Hindus in representing 1% of the U.S. population and staying relatively stagnant in terms of population growth. One Orthodox account on X notes that while some Orthodox parishes are growing in converts, others you don't hear about are declining. And unlike Catholicism, which has grown globally over the past century, Orthodoxy has shrunk. In 1910, it represented 20% of the global Christian population. But in 2010, it only comprised 12% of the global population, with most of its adherents residing in Eastern Europe. Finally, Oriental Orthodoxy, that emerged from disputes over the Council of Chalcedon in the 5th century, is growing much faster than Eastern Orthodoxy, and the groups are often conflated. So Eastern Orthodox, who say the future is Orthodox, are having mild delusions of grandeur. But Catholics who say America is becoming a Catholic country are having a major hallucinatory episode. Once again, you can't judge reality based on what a social media algorithm feeds you, because social media companies don't want to give you truth. They just want to give whatever keeps you clicking, which creates a comfortable echo chamber around users made up of posts that they want to see. Protestantism isn't doing great either.
okay. I like to point out that the video I have, the first raw impressions I have, is a video covering, because like what he said sounds bad, I won't deny. But like what he just said sounds fishy when I literally had to do a video covering a pastor because a family left. And so he did his research and did a whole video about that, which I responded to in entirety. Excuse me. But like the Protestants are realizing they're dying too, but to us. So again, one of us is lying. Um so yeah, I think that was it. But like I also have gone to RCAA in my church, and there are quite a few people there. There are a lot of people who come for like one visit at least. And then there's a few people who are coming back into the faith, coming to the faith. So I'm very, yeah, when he's like, well, you're focused too online, bruh, I'm also in the church and I'm seeing it. So anyways, moving on.
Either. But they are winning in the sense that of the top 3 major religious groups in America, they are experiencing the least decline. Look at it this way. 46% of Americans in this sample were raised Protestant, and 40% are still Protestant, a 15% decline. 30% were raised Catholic, and 19% are still Catholic, a 36% decline. The number 3 religious group isn't Eastern Orthodoxy or Islam, it's Mormons, with 2.1% being raised Mormon and only 1.5% remaining Mormon, which represents a 25% decline. But wait, you may be asking, how could the Catholic Church have 8 people leave for every 1 convert, but only experience a 20% decline in overall members, whereas Protestantism had a 21% decline? How is Catholicism...
Sorry, I just realized. Don't worry, he just showed the data again. I highly suspect he's going to be, because we breed. Catholics do breed.
Doing worse in this matter? Well, Salmons correctly identifies the answer. He writes, "There's something that keeps the numbers slightly afloat: immigration. As the Pew survey itself states, immigration has helped to bolster the number of Catholics in the United States. So while millions are fleeing the Catholic Church, new migrants keep the overall numbers from looking horrific. We also should look at where former Catholics go after they leave Catholicism. Pew says that 32% become Protestant, but almost twice as many, 56%, become religiously unaffiliated, or nuns. Not the good nuns, obviously. In fact, very soon, there may not be any religious nuns in America, since less than 1% of nuns are under the age of 40, and the average age of a religious sister is 80. Protestant apologist Javier Perdomo has also done a deep dive on the Pew study and shows that there is not a colossal shift among Protestants in becoming Catholic.
Okay, so he shows. This is literally going into like a verse for verse, like with a Protestant, because there's literally, I saw like 20 or so different videos from Catholic apologetics guys who are saying, "Hey, look, here's this article from the Protestants saying that like we're kind of that there's a Catholic audience and they're taking away Protestants." Trent has another article that says they don't differ. So, anyways, continuing.
Among those raised Protestant, only 2% now identify as Catholic, whereas among those raised Catholic, 14% of them identify as Protestant. That means there are 7 times as many converts to Protestantism than there are to Catholicism between these two groups. Now, some Catholics may soothe themselves by saying that smart Protestants become Catholic, whereas the larger number of not so smart or less pious Catholics become Protestant. So this is just an issue of...
I don't know if it's less pious. Like, it's... Well, yeah, sorry. Not. I thought you said something else. Obviously, Catholicism is way harder than Protestantism. And I know that's going to cause a lot of panic. But, like, yeah, being a Catholic is much harder than a Protestant because a Protestant, like, especially with a lot of, like, just politically, they've allowed, like, the step down. Like, to give an example, like, contraception used to be, like, well, still is. In the church, it's a no-no. Like, I'll never feel a rubber, thankfully, because I always had the fear of, like, if I ever put it on and I can't get it off. I think that's a legitimate fear. I may be overthinking, but what I also think... Sorry, what was I... Oh, yeah, pious Catholics. Like, obviously, there's kind of the cultural Catholicism, so it's like, oh, yeah, I'm Catholic, but I have no idea what I believe in. Like, that's where there's a lot of these videos from, like, Ray Comfort, I think. He goes to, like, some people who are like, oh, yeah, I was raised Catholic, and so I'm Catholic. But it's like, I haven't been to Mass in, like, 20 years or something. You know, it's like, yeah. Like, just saying that. But, like, being Protestant is far more easier. So you could be Christian, but still be as worldly as a normal person as well. So just counterpointing to that.
Quality over quantity. Well, that's a grand claim with little evidence to back it up. But suppose it were true. Why does that matter? A person's worth doesn't come from...
Hold on. I think I just got attacked.
Smart or less pious Catholics become Protestant, whereas the larger number of not so smart or less Protestants become Catholic, whereas the larger number of not so smart or less pious Catholics become Protestant. So this is just an issue of quality over quantity. Well, that's a grand claim with little evidence to back it up. But
have you been on... Bro, you left Twitter. Bro, there's literally a meme about it. Bro, there is... Hold on. Let me pop it up real quick. I bet you anything I can find it in like 20 seconds. I just need to go into Twitter. Excuse me. Where's that? Hold on. I'm just going to search. I went to Catholic school. First one. No, I'm joking. It would have been funny, though, no? Okay. Hold on. There we are. Okay. Let me go. Let me find what I need. Ara tu da u da he o he o di caro sano. Okay. Give me 20 seconds. Oh, I'm actually where I need to be. Never mind. I am super good. Actually, I'm not. Da 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 da. Ah, crap. I realize I have my taskbar out, or I have my bookmarks up. I just don't want to show that. Not because there's anything there. Just it's kind of like the police when they ask you for like, can I search your car? It's like there's nothing here, but no. Let me hold on. Let me save it real quick. Okay, raw impressions. He literally did this meme. This meme is a meme because it's practically every time some Protestants will say like the weirdest crap about like we worship Mary or something. They'll be like, "Yeah, I went to Catholic school. We worship Mary. We had to do the rosary like every day." It's like this is legitimately it. The trust me, or it's like trust me. I grew up Catholic and went to Catholic school. Like, and it's Martin Luther. Just for those who are unaware. So just pointing that out. Like, I, bro, bruh, why? I do think like this is kind of sabotage on us, bro. Like you're not don't say it. Don't say it. Even if it's false. Even if it's true. Don't say it because we believe it to be true. We believe this to be true. We know this to be true actually. So I wouldn't sabotage us like this, but let's continue. Sorry, I need to swap it.
But suppose it were true. Why does
It
that
is.
matter? A person's worth doesn't come from his or her intelligence.
Yep. I don't understand the point. Like, I understand the point that he's trying to make right now, but I don't see how that, like, we're not saying that, like, oh, we're losing them and they just don't know the truth because they're too dumb, brain dead to understand things. It's like, we're not saying that they are not unworthy of being Catholic. We are saying that, yeah, well, we failed to catechize them well enough. Anyways.
It comes from the fact that he or she was made in the image and likeness of God. The church is a hospital for sinners. It's not a social club for theology nerds. Consider St. Paul's words from his first letter to the Corinthians. For consider your call, brethren. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose what is foolish in the world to
Okay, I'm going to skip past this just because he's reading an entire block of text.
shame the wise.
But, like, again. Oh, sorry, went too far. But, like, again, it's not that we don't want them in, but it's like, okay, we lost people, but sometimes it's also, do people actually care enough to investigate the faith, to live the faith? That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a theology nerd. You got to know enough theology to survive, but that's just a weird. I don't know why he brings this up. With all honesty, because it's okay. So we shouldn't be concerned with quality. Yeah, who said we were, Trent? I feel like Trent's making arguments, or Trent's like sidestepping stuff here, because no, like this is the time that he called Nick. Like with all due respect, like I haven't watched that much of Nick, so one, and like I've watched some clips though, and I will say he kind of sounds like me, but like at one point, Trent basically called him a rape apologist, and I was called that once too, and the only person that mentioned rape was my accuser. And then of course I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Because yeah, it's like, excuse me? Like I'll beat your ass, but I didn't because I had control. But it's like, yeah, don't do that. Don't make me out to be this villain. So, I do think this is where I like how this isn't really political. This is kind of more in Trent's area as a apologetics, but I think he's reading the data wrong, or he's either conflicting through with the data, or the data suggests this. You can come up with a lot of data. I had data that suggests that pro-lifers, it was the March for Life video I did. It was that we had to equal the pro-choicers as pro-lifers, or else we were going to lose the states. I was able to basically get that graph, which basically said um, that like we lose elections if we don't equal them in finances. But that wasn't the only thing, right? Data is very manipulative. Like a lot of this data of that's showing that we're leaving, but there's a lot more than just, well, they're in the Catholic Church. They're also in the world. Like there's more factors. Like even the video I did, I said there were more factors than just money. Obviously there's like messaging, how you market it, the messaging, the people, the counties, yada yada yada. There's a whole list of other stuff. Same thing with this. There's a lot of worldly people who kind of want to hold on to bits of it. There's also some cowardly people. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. And should they work through this? Yes. But there are some people who have given up the fight. So, anyways.
Going back to the data from Pew,
Thank you.
The Protestants most likely to become Catholic are Lutherans, Anglicans, and Presbyterians, which makes sense because these religions are closer in liturgy, theology, and historical development to Catholicism than non-denominational evangelicals. Surprisingly, though, among Eastern Orthodox who switch religions, they are more likely to become non-religious or Protestant than to become Catholic. In fact, if someone switches from a non-Christian religion to a Christian religion, they are much more likely to become Protestant than Catholic. This may be due to a fact I noted in my previous episode about Wes Huff on The Joe Rogan Show, which shows how evangelistic Protestants focus more on the fundamentals of the faith and outreach to non-Christians like atheists, Muslims, and Mormons, whereas evangelistic Catholics tend to focus on Catholic distinctives and outreach to Protestants. Now look, my desire in making today's episode isn't to just bum Catholics out. Instead, it's to curb
We'll see about that. We'll see about it.
triumphalism that can make our witness really obnoxious and also lull us into a false sense of security. Look, when you think you're winning, you just don't try as hard. For example, when Roe versus Wade was the law.
Oh, no. Okay, I think he's agreeing. Like, I will say, I think I'm going to be agreeing with this point, but like, oh, no. Bring it on.
Land, pro-choice advocates never wanted to engage the issue. But when Roe was overturned, pro-choicers became the underdogs and developed a passion to fight for this issue I've never seen before. So that's the bad news for Catholics. And to be clear, I'm not concerned about winning in the sense that I want to get the most converts, as if evangelism were some kind of denominational competition.
Yeah. So, I'm going to say something that most Catholics will say, which is, I want everyone to be Catholic because I believe it to be true. So, yes, Trent, it is a denominational competition. I'm sorry, but it is. It may not be that way, but it kind of is. I find that weird. That bruh. I'm making this face in my brain.
I sincerely believe the Catholic Church possesses the fullness of what God has revealed for the sake of saving people from their sins.
I would hope so. Not only are you Catholic, so there's that, but you're a Catholic apologetics guy. If you didn't believe what you say, we'd have some issues, bro.
And to willingly reject Christ's church risks a person's eternal soul. I want everyone to be in full communion with the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church that safeguards divine revelation and communicates the sacraments Christ instituted for our salvation, like the Eucharist. I also want to remove as many obstacles to that goal as possible, and ignorant cheerleading can be one of those obstacles.
Oh, no.
Imagine a team that is losing the big game.
I'm just, oh man. This is, okay, this is kind of just, I feel just like subtle little. I feel like he's going somewhere else, but he hasn't gone there yet. So
But the players only talk about that one play earlier in the game where they owned the captain of the other team. That might make them feel good, but they're going to lose if they don't change their approach because they've lost sight of the big picture. So as Catholics, what should we do? I'll be honest, I don't have a complete answer. My goal
I knew it. I knew it. I was like, the lesson for Catholics, there is none. You know that I knew it. I knew it. Like I just knew it. He was going to be like, well, we've done a lot of things and really we just need to increase those efforts. That's essentially what I'm going to be saying. So so he's admitting defeat. Let's be clear. At this point right now, even though I stopped him midway through, right now it's so Protestantism is losing or Protestantism is winning, Catholics were losing, and Catholics can't do anything about it. That is where we are right now at 11 minutes and 32 seconds. So I hope he's going to recorrect because that's basically saying the truth is dying amongst people and we can't say the truth too loudly. Excuse me. Sorry, burping. We can't say the truth. Even if we say the truth, it's not going to help us no matter what we do to keep spreading the truth. So just, okay. I had a feeling he was going to say that. I just knew it. Like, there was going to be I don't really have an answer for you. And it's probably just going to be like, the most things we can do is pray, do some evangelization that we've done before and maybe increase it,
goal here at the Council of Trent is to provide good reasons to believe in Christianity, with a special emphasis on its fulfillment in the Catholic Church. I consider myself to be in research and development of arguments more than in tactics and strategy.
Arguments of what? Bro, you literally had everyone... You literally had to called a lot of people... I thought that was the thing. You called everyone anti-Semitic or like... What was it? Not the patriarchy, guys. What do you say? Oh gosh, I don't remember. But yeah, you're so nowhere is this political. And I don't even claim to be an apologetic guy. I'm a Theo bro. I know stuff. That's about it.
But I will say that Catholics and the Orthodox do have the upper hand when engaging Protestants, especially evangelicals, on the question of who has the fullness of the faith. Recently, a video went viral on X showing evangelicals Stuart and Cliff Connectley, who you might remember from my Christian Avengers rebuttal, discussing the Eucharist and baptism with a Harvard student who is an Oriental Orthodox deacon. I'll link to the video below, but I will say the duo did not come off well, and their lack of knowledge about church history really showed, especially when they tried to attack the church by saying ecumenical councils contradict each other, including some ecumenical council named Vatican III.
Just like Vatican I, II, and III.
I don't believe in those. And there's no Vatican III.
So I think
Sorry, I have not watched the thing itself. Oh wow. You just went Vatican I, II, and III, and then damn, one more time. Just for one more time.
III.
Just like Vatican I, II, and III.
I don't believe in those. And there's no Vatican III.
So I think
I love I love what he did, the Eastern Orthodox guy. Or Oriental, I think it was the Orthodox guy. I like how he's like, I don't believe in those. And then he immediately was like, wait, Vatican III? What the hell's Vatican III, bro? That was glorious. That made my night.
I think there is tremendous benefit in Catholics engaging
one more time.
Protestants online.
Oh, one more time.
A council named Vatican III.
Just like Vatican I, II, and III.
I don't believe in those. And there's no Vatican III.
So I think there is tremendous benefit in Catholics engaging Protestants online and having charitable discussions about the apostolic origins of our faith with them.
Charitable. Yeah, I'm blocked by like 2 of them for literally asking a simple question. I'm not even a dick. Like, I ask questions. That's literally all I do. Do I ask probably leading questions? Yeah. But anyways.
But if we keep our focus online, we're going to lose, just like the sports team that only talks about the one awesome play they had in the first quarter and isn't looking at the scoreboard anymore. Even when we do effectively share the faith with someone online, that person we share it with still has to go and encounter a real life brick and mortar parish to be fully received into the faith. And I think that's what many Catholics fear the most, the actual parish experience. For example, when I got married, and I assume it's like this in many parishes and dioceses, I needed to get an affidavit signed by my parents and witnessed at a Catholic church that says I had never been married before. But my parents weren't and still are not Catholic. And so no parish would sign their affidavit because they weren't registered at that particular parish. But they couldn't register at that parish or any parish because they're not Catholic. But at those parishes, hey, rules are rules. I can't help you. I think many people have had similar stories of Catholic parishes feeling not like welcoming homes, but more like Kafka-esque bureaucratic nightmares. And I think that's the crux of the problem for Catholics. For many Catholics, the ones who aren't debating theology on the internet, but just show up to Mass every week out of ritual obligation, the faith is something that they just get through. It's something they've inherited, and it often provides comfort, but it's just one part of their life, and it's usually not the most important part. In 2023, the Public Religion Research Institute, or PRRI, asked people to agree with the statement, religion is the most important thing in their life. The largest group who agreed with that statement were white evangelicals at 44%. 23% of Hispanic Catholics agree with that statement, but among white Catholics, it's been the same for a decade. Only 9% say religion is the most important thing in their life. That's less than half of all Americans in general. The Pew study also showed that of all the Protestant denominations, the one not
Sorry. I flinched because it just became all white. And then I looked into my camera and I could see I just got washed out. Like, it's going to be yeah, look, I'm turning on the lights.
not losing members were the non-denominational Protestants. There may be different reasons for that, positive and negative. Negative would be that these groups have unlimited latitude to cater to their audiences, so they have an easier time attracting people, but a much more difficult time maintaining a consistent theology and a reverent liturgy. But the positive side,
liturgy. It's basically turn on Spotify or play Spotify playlist songs and call that worship.
it may be that this group, especially evangelicals, just see the faith differently. Most homilies at
No. Sorry, one more
an
time.
average group, especially
Sorry, I heard that. Hold on.
evangelicals, just see the faith differently.
Like, yeah, that's why they were evangelicals. Like,
The positive side may be that this group, especially evangelicals, just see the faith differently. Most homilies at an average Catholic parish usually focus on encouraging us to be better people each week. And it is good to hear about how we should grow in sanctity.
oh yeah, you should be better people. Yeah. Then you go to a Protestant church. What are they preaching about? Us. We are the monsters that keep them up at night. We live rent free in their head, even though they claim that it's the other way around. I don't care.
But you've probably rarely heard a priest say that people's salvation is in danger if they choose to leave or reject the Catholic Church. Or you've probably rarely heard a priest explain why salvation comes from the Catholic Church. But for many evangelicals,
I'm trying to think. Like, to be fair, I don't read homilies. They're said, and I remember more probably if I read it more than once. They lose their salvation. I swear, at least once or so. But yeah, I wouldn't say. Well, yeah. Well, because even his speech about confession, it was more of the relationship with God, Jesus. So, okay, maybe he's right on that. I will give him that.
sharing the faith is a matter of spiritual life or death to the person they're witnessing to. It's not just about running up the scoreboard in a Pew survey. And Catholics should have the same missionary passion. Although our real
Pew survey. Sorry, I just I get it now. Get it? Pew, because that's what Catholics sit on.
Problem is not the failure to witness to non-Catholics. It's the failure to help Catholics stay Catholic. According to the PRRI report, of all groups, Catholics were the most likely to leave their faith because they just stopped believing in the religion's teaching, followed by rejecting church teaching on LGBTQ issues. They were also the most likely
Hold on.
to leave their religion because of scandals involving leaders in your former religion. I agree with Sammons, though, that there isn't.
Okay, so hold on. Let me go through his points one more time. So, because he said 3. What was it?
On LGBTQ.
Nope. Sorry, earlier. Okay, Catholics are most because they just stop believing. This is a catechist issue, or catechist issue, catechesis, learning the faith, teaching the faith. There we are. Teaching the faith, again, goes to the parents, right? It's not the job of the church to really teach it. It's the parents. The parents are supposed to be knowledgeable. And if they're not, then they should. That is where my boy here is supposed to kind of help a bit here, too. What's the other one? Oh, the LGBT. So, again, we have an issue of...
not believing in the religion's teaching.
Sorry. We have the world issue, right? The LGBT issues, how we need to accept them in, right? Because there's a lot of liberal Catholics as well. And I say that term even though Catholic in quotes. And then what was the other one? Oh, scandals. Yeah, the sex scandal. Yeah, I came in on 2020. Yeah, I really don't care. Because actually, I thought with the math actually proves that both in Protestantism and Catholicism, it's the same. It's just the Catholics are talked about more. Public schools, I thought, were way worse. And then, even my parish, we had one guy get called out for like some misconduct, I think, or assault. I don't remember. And like, I knew the priest, and this was before I was even Catholic myself. But like, yeah, no, I saw him when I was younger. Nah, not like that. Just to be clear. I mean, like, I saw him when I was, like 10 or so. He did not have like a creep personality. So, like, he didn't have that vibe. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, 2 more minutes. Let's roll.
I agree with Sammons, though, that there isn't a simple answer to solve this problem. He writes, Catholics ignoring the problem is the biggest challenge. But there is another challenge, giving simplistic answers. There is no silver bullet that will reverse the decline. Just spreading the TLM, the trad silver bullet, or improving catechesis, the conservative silver bullet, or accepting...
Oops. I'm being called out. Yeah. But like, I don't think I'm wrong too much about that. Like, that is honestly the answer, or some bits of the time, is that it's like, well, why do you believe that? I feel like that would be the answer. Like, I definitely don't agree. Like, I don't agree with the trad silver bullet. I don't, because I've gone to the TLM and it's not been exactly, like, OMG, I need to, come here again, but like improving catechesis, like, yeah. But like, part of that is like bringing people in too. So, anyways. But I never thought improving catechesis was considered a silver bullet. That's kind of just like, we should do that just in general, not even just as like, we should be doing that in general just because of the fact that we're Catholics and we should know the faith. Like, for crying out loud, like, one time Michael Voris, which I know like a lot of people, especially the Catholics, but he once was talking to Schlapp, who leads CPAC, and Voris asked Schlapp about gay men getting babies, and Schlapp was like, "Oh, well, does the church actually teach on that? Well, we teach homosexuality is bad, so anything of the fruit of it is no." So, I'm just saying that's where catechesis would come into clutch. But anyways,
modern sexual mores, the liberal silver bullet, won't solve the problem. There is no one answer for how to move forward. Eric would agree the liberal silver bullet is one that would unalive the church with evil errors, so obviously it's wrong. His point is just that each camp in the church likes to propose a simple solution. But even good, simple solutions like more catechesis will not be enough. Whatever the solution is, treating our Catholic faith as a matter of spiritual life and death in everything we do, from preaching to teaching to lay people's interactions with everyone they meet, needs to be a part of our response to this crisis. And it has to be done in real life, not just online, since online converts and reverts need an orthodox, inviting place in the real world if they want to come home to the faith. Keep in mind that 1 in every 8 people you meet is a former Catholic. 1 in 8. So a simple invitation to attend Mass can go a long way. 25 years ago, a girl at my high school invited me to Mass. It changed my life, and consequently, it changed the lives of countless other people. So it's always worth a shot. Easter is coming up soon, and there'll be a lot of Catholics at church there who haven't been since Christmas. A kind word and an invitation for them to come next week to Divine Mercy Sunday can also go a long way. The worst a person can say is no thanks. And if you'd like to learn more about how to draw people back to the Catholic faith, I recommend my friend Brandon Vought's book, Return, How to Draw Your Child Back to the Church, which is meant for parents, but is helpful to anyone who wants to encourage a fellow child of God to come home to the church. And for teaching children about the church's toughest moral issues that often precipitate them leaving the faith, I recommend Made This Way, co-authored with my friend Layla Miller. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a very blessed day.
Okay. So before I do anything, I'm going to close that and hit that up. So, thoughts. Let's get some thoughts. So, do I think that, again, I thought there was something weird with this, the stats itself. Excuse me. It's also 35. Is it self-reported? So, of course, that data is skewed already because it's self-reporting people. If you were to actually tabulate the people that actually cared, I don't know if you get the same, you get the same numbers. Obviously, the numbers would change just on its own. But yeah, I do have the feeling of, why make this video that says basically, so we have a problem, but we don't have a one-term fix. It's just weird to me there. Yeah, the fact that some of the church office stuff is a thing, that kind of is a parish thing, and that really is on the parishioners themselves. So, and that's where one thing, again, I made a video the other day, or it was last week or so, right? And I talk about, sacrifice and actually, doing something rather than just complaining. And, if we do have parishional problems, that is up on to the parish and thus the people in it. So if office Karen is having a little bit of problems, well, that's where you come in maybe. But, yep, I think that will do it for me, though. I can't really think of anything else to say. I do think, though, Trent is wrong. I still think Catholicism is winning because we are seeing the uptick. And not only, I know we say online, but it's there is a lot of people, and it's on my For You page all the time of, especially because, we're a few days away from Easter. They're about to, join the church. So, I don't know, if Trent's saying, if you're online a lot. Yeah, I am, but I also go to things. I do go to the RCA at my church. And I do see people joining the church. There are some people who are Catholic who are returning. There's been some reverts. So, and I thought they said something about in the data where it was I thought there was something I read on Twitter. There was something about what happens if they were Catholic, left, and then came back, and it doesn't count. It doesn't account for that. It just says that they left. So, anyways. That will do it for me, though. I am going to actually go to bed. So, anyways, I'll see you all in another video. I should have Probably I will have this posted when I go through it again. And then I'll have a video about voting and primaries, political primaries. So I'm sorry I've been out for a little bit. I've been working on my book a lot more recently, so that's kind of taken some of the sludge. And then also just me kind of like doing the data it's a process. So anyways, yeah, good night.